I stopped letting them touch me. It happened slowly at first. A step back when Seo-yeon reached for my hand. Turning my face when Jiwoo tried to kiss my forehead. Small movements that created inches of distance that felt like miles. They noticed. "What's going on with you?" Jiwoo cornered me in the kitchen 3 days after the hospital. Her voice was sharp, frustrated. "You've barely said 10 words since we got back." I kept my eyes on my coffee. "I'm fine." "You're lying." She moved closer. I could smell cedar. It used to make me feel safe. Now it just hurt. "Talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." Seo-yeon appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were soft but worried. "Minjun, please, let us help." Help. Like I was something broken they could fix with enough money and protection. Maybe I was. But I couldn't let them break themselves trying to put me back together. My mother's face kept flashing through my mind. That disgust, that hatred. She'd called me shameful. A disgrace to our family name. And she was right. What was I doing? Playing house with 2 women who could lose everything because of me? Tae-sung wasn't going to stop. He'd already destroyed my apartment, poisoned my mother against me. What would he do to them? I'd seen what he was capable of. The bruises had faded, but the fear hadn't. I couldn't let him hurt them too. So, that night, I made my decision. We need to talk. My voice came out steadier than I felt. They sat across from me on the couch, beautiful, concerned, everything I didn't deserve. "I think we should end this," I said. The silence was deafening. "What?" Seo-yeon's voice was barely a whisper. "This, us, whatever this is." I forced myself to meet their eyes. "It was a mistake." Jiwoo's jaw tightened. "You don't mean that." "I do." The lie tasted like ash. "It was just physical. I needed protection. You were convenient." "Bullshit." Jiwoo stood up. "You're lying. Why are you lying?" "I'm not." "Yes, you are." She crossed to me in 3 strides, grabbed my face, forced me to look at her. "Tell me the truth." I broke. "Because I can't let him hurt you." The words ripped out of me. "Don't you understand? My mother hates me. Tae-sung destroyed everything I own. He won't stop until he destroys you too, and I can't—" My voice cracked. "I can't watch him take you away from me." Seo-yeon's eyes filled with tears. "So you're taking yourself away instead?" "I'm protecting you. We don't need your protection." Jiwoo's voice was cold now, hard. "We need you to trust us, to let us fight beside you. You don't understand what he's capable of, and you don't get to make this choice alone." Her hands dropped from my face. "You're choosing fear over us. You're running. I'm trying to keep you safe." "By breaking our hearts?" Seo-yeon stood. "By throwing away everything we've built because you're scared?" "Yes," I was crying now. "Yes, because if something happened to either of you because of me, I couldn't live with it. Don't you understand? I love you both too much to let him destroy you." The words hung in the air. I'd never said them before, love, and now I was saying them while walking away. "If you walk out that door," Jiwoo said quietly, "don't come back." I grabbed my bag, shoved clothes into it with shaking hands. They didn't try to stop me. I walked out into the night, alone again. My phone buzzed an hour later. Unknown number, a photo, Jiwoo and Seo-yeon leaving their office building. Then a text. "Smart girl, now they're safe, for now. Tae-sung." He'd been watching all along. I wasn't going to run anymore. 3 days had passed since I walked out of that penthouse, and I'd spent every single one staring at the ceiling of my friend's cramped apartment, replaying Tae-sung's text. The photo of Jiwoo and Seo-yeon. His words, "Smart girl, now they're safe, for now." Leaving them hadn't protected anyone. It had just left me alone. So I stopped crying and started planning. I knew Tae-sung. Knew his patterns, his ego, the way he needed to gloat. He'd want to see me broken, to prove he'd won. I sent him a message from a burner phone. Simple, direct. "We need to talk. Alone. You were right about everything. He responded within minutes. An address followed, an abandoned warehouse near the docks. Of course, predictable. I arrived early, my heart hammering, but my hands steady. The building smelled like rust and decay. I found a spot behind stacked crates where I could see the entrance clearly, where I could wait. The door opened 20 minutes later. But it wasn't Tae-sung. It was Seo-yeon. My breath caught. What was she doing here? How did she know about this place? She walked to the center of the warehouse with purpose, her heels clicking against concrete. She checked her phone, looked around, then stood there waiting. For someone. Every instinct told me to reveal myself, to call out to her. But something kept me frozen, some deep sense that I needed to stay hidden. 5 minutes crawled by. Then the door opened again. Tae-sung walked in. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. They stood facing each other in the center of that empty warehouse. Too far away for me to hear what they were saying, but I could see them clearly. Seo-yeon pulled out her phone, showed him something on the screen. He nodded. They talked for maybe 5 minutes, their body language professional. Cold, like a business meeting. Then Tae-sung extended his hand. Seo-yeon shook it. The gesture was so casual, so normal, and it felt like watching my world end in slow motion. She turned and walked out without looking back, her heels clicking away into nothing. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the roaring in my ears. What had I just seen? Why was Seo-yeon meeting with him? What kind of deal had they just made? I waited until her footsteps had completely faded, until my legs stopped shaking enough to hold my weight. Then I stepped out from behind the crates. Tae-sung's smile was everything I remembered and hated, triumphant, satisfied. "I knew you'd come," he said. "You always were so predictable, Min-jun." What was she doing here? My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Who, Seo-yeon?" He laughed. "We were just finalizing some business, nothing you need to worry about." "What business?" I took a step forward, then another. "What did you do?" "What did I do?" His eyebrows rose in mock innocence. "You mean what did she do? What they both did? Stop playing games. Tell me." "They paid me, Min-jun." He circled me slowly. "Your precious bosses. The women you think love you so much. They paid me very well to make sure you learned your lesson." "You're lying." "Am I?" He pulled out his phone, showed me an email, legal documents, contract details. Infrastructure development deal. 50 million over 3 years. All I had to do was punish you for walking away from them. Make sure you felt the consequences of your choice. I stared at that screen, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. "They don't love you," he continued, stepping closer. "They own you. There's a difference. And when you tried to leave, when you tried to take yourself away, they couldn't stand it. So they hired me to break you back into place." No. But even as I said it, I'd seen Seo-yeon, seen her shake his hand, seen proof I couldn't deny. Yes. His hand shot out fast, grabbing my wrist, the same wrist. Pain flared hot and familiar. And I'm going to enjoy every second of it. Something inside me snapped. Not the breaking kind, the other kind, the kind that burns away fear and leaves nothing but fury. I slammed my knee into his groin as hard as I could. He doubled over with a choked gasp. I wrenched free and ran, not toward the door, toward the pile of broken bricks near the wall. He caught me by my hair. Pain exploded across my scalp. "You never learn." My fingers closed around a brick, heavy, solid, real. I swung with everything I had, the brick connected with his temple. The sound was sickening. He went down hard. I didn't wait to see if he'd get back up. I just ran. Out of the warehouse, down the street, my lungs burning. I didn't stop until I reached my friend's apartment. I collapsed against the door, my whole body shaking. There was blood on my hands. I must have dropped the brick somewhere, but I couldn't remember when. I couldn't remember anything except seeing Seo-yeon shake Tae-sung's hand like they were business partners. I must have passed out on the floor. When I opened my eyes, bright sunlight was streaming through the window and my friend was shaking my shoulder, thrusting her phone in my face. A news article, financial section. Major infrastructure deal announced. Leading tech firm partners with construction giant. Below the headline was a photo. Ji-woo and Seo-yeon in their sharp suits, shaking hands with an older man. Tae-sung's father. The article was dated today. The contract had been officially signed this morning. Everything Tae-sung had told me was true. They had paid him $50 million. A business transaction to punish me for leaving them. The phone slipped from my hands. I had been so certain, so sure that what we had was real, that they would never hurt me like this. But I'd seen Seo-yeon with my own eyes, seen her make that deal. And now, here was the proof in black and white. The two women I loved had bought my suffering. My friend was talking, asking if I was okay, reaching for me, but I couldn't hear her over Tae-sung's words echoing in my head. They paid me to break you. And looking at that news article, at those signatures, at that photo of them smiling like nothing was wrong, I realized he'd succeeded. I was broken. The morning sun felt too bright against my face as I stood outside their office building. My hands weren't shaking anymore. My chest wasn't tight with tears. There was only one thing left inside me now. Rage. Pure, cold, focused rage. My friend had tried to stop me at the door. "Minjun, don't. You need to think this through. You need to calm down first." But I was calm. That was the problem. I'd never been more calm in my life. I walked through the lobby like I belonged there. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt endless, but I didn't look away from my reflection in the polished metal doors. I looked like hell. Dark circles under my eyes, hair barely brushed, the same clothes I'd slept in. I didn't care. The executive assistant tried to intercept me when I stepped off the elevator. "Miss Park, you can't just..." I walked past her like she didn't exist. Pushed open the double doors to Ji-woo's office without knocking. They were both there. Ji-woo behind her massive desk, Seo-yeon standing near the windows with a tablet in her hands. They looked up when I burst in, surprise flickering across their faces for just a second before their expressions went carefully blank. Professional. Distant. Like I was a stranger. "Why?" The word came out steady. Strong. "Why did you pay him to hurt me?" Ji-woo stood slowly, placing her hands flat on the desk. Her face was unreadable. "I told you not to come back if you walked out that door. Answer the question." "There's nothing to answer." Seo-yeon's voice was ice. No warmth left. Nothing like the woman who had held me while I cried. "You're clearly upset, but you need to leave." "I saw you." I turned to face her fully. "At the warehouse, with Tae-sung. I saw you shake his hand. I saw the news article about the contract this morning." Something flickered in Seo-yeon's eyes, but her expression didn't change. "That was a standard business meeting, a corporate contract that has nothing to do with you personally." "Nothing to do with me?" My voice rose despite my best efforts to stay calm. "He told me everything. $50 million to punish me for leaving you, to make sure I learned my lesson." "And you believed him?" Ji-woo's tone was cutting, cold in a way I'd never heard directed at me before. "You believed your abusive ex-boyfriend over us?" The accusation hit like a slap. "I saw the proof. The contract. The signatures." "You saw a legitimate business deal." Ji-woo crossed her arms. "If you can't separate your personal paranoia from professional reality, then maybe you shouldn't be working here." The words landed like physical blows, each one precisely aimed to hurt. "So that's it?" I looked between them. "You're just going to stand there and lie to my face?" "We're not lying." Seo-yeon set down her tablet with deliberate care. "We're telling you the truth. That contract is about infrastructure development. Nothing more. If Tae-sung told you otherwise, he was manipulating you. Again." "He's good at that, isn't he?" Ji-woo added. "Manipulation. Making you doubt the people who actually care about you." I wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, wanted them to just admit what they'd done so I could understand why. But they just stood there, perfect, composed, treating me like I was crazy. "You told him to make sure I felt it," I said quietly. "Seo-yeon, you told him to make sure I felt the consequences." For just a second, Seo-yeon's mask slipped. Shock. Then it was back in place. "You're inventing conversations that never happened. This is exactly what we warned you about. Tae-sung is in your head, making you see things that aren't real." "I know what I saw." "Then you saw wrong." Jiwoo's voice was final. "And if you can't handle working here anymore, if you're going to create drama and make wild accusations based on nothing, then perhaps you should consider resigning." The word hung in the air between us. Resigning. They wanted me gone, wanted me to just disappear like I'd never mattered at all. Maybe I hadn't. Maybe everything had been a lie from the beginning. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my employee badge, the one I'd used to get past security, the one that said I belonged here. I walked to Jiwoo's desk, slammed it down on the polished wood surface hard enough to make her coffee cup rattle. "I quit." Neither of them moved, neither of them tried to stop me. "We made it clear what would happen if you left," Seo-yeon said softly. "You made your choice, Min-jun." I turned and walked out, past the shocked assistant, into the elevator. My hands were steady as I pressed the button for the ground floor. The doors closed on their faces, expressionless, unreadable, like I'd never touched them at all. The elevator descended in silence. My reflection stared back at me from the metal walls. I looked different now, harder, colder, good. If they wanted to play games, if they wanted to pretend the contract meant nothing, then fine. I'd handle this myself. I'd destroy Tae-sung. I'd make him pay for every lie, every manipulation, every moment of pain. And when it was over, when he was broken the way he'd tried to break me, then maybe I'd figure out what to do about the two women who'd just thrown me away like garbage. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. I walked through it without looking back, through the glass doors, and out into the bright morning sunlight. My mind was already working, planning. I knew where Tae-sung worked, where he lived, where he'd be vulnerable. I stood on the sidewalk, letting the anger fuel me, letting it burn away everything else until there was nothing left but purpose. Then I looked up and froze. Tae-sung was walking toward me down the sidewalk, a white bandage wrapped around his head where I'd hit him with that brick. His face was bruised, one eye swollen, and on either side of him, in uniform, were two police officers. His eyes met mine, and he smiled. That same smile. Triumphant, satisfied, like he'd won. The officers' hands moved to their belts as they approached. One of them was already reaching for handcuffs. "Min-jun Park," the female officer called out. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was it. The final move. The last revenge. I'd hit him, left him bleeding in that warehouse, and now he was going to make sure I paid for it. Everything I'd fought for, everything I'd survived. It was all about to end right here on this sunlit sidewalk. The handcuffs were cold against my wrists. "Min-jun Park, you're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon." The female officer's voice was professional, detached. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." I couldn't take my eyes off Tae-sung. That smile, that triumphant, satisfied smile. He'd won, after everything he'd finally won. They guided me into the back of the patrol car with firm hands. The door closed with a heavy thunk that sounded like a coffin lid. Through the window, I watched Tae-sung standing on the sidewalk, one hand touching the bandage on his head, making sure everyone could see what I'd done to him. The car pulled away from the curb. I stared out the window, my mind blank with shock. This was really happening. I was going to jail. Everything I'd survived, everything I'd fought through, and it was going to end like this. Then I noticed we were going the wrong direction. The police station was downtown. Everyone knew that, but we were heading toward the residential districts, away from the city center. Where are we going? My voice came out rough. The station is the other way. The male officer in the passenger seat turned around. His smile made my blood run cold. Change of plans. That's when I knew. These weren't real cops. I lunged forward, trying to get my hands on the door handle despite the cuffs. The female officer driving swerved slightly, cursed. The male one reached back through the partition. Hold her! Hands grabbed me. I fought back, kicking, twisting, but the cuffs made everything impossible. Something soft pressed over my mouth. A gag. I tried to scream, but it came out muffled and useless. They bound my ankles too. I was completely helpless now, lying across the back seat as the fake patrol car drove deeper into the suburbs. We pulled into a driveway, a house I recognized with a sickening drop in my stomach. Tae-sung's house, the one I'd lived in for 2 years before I finally escaped. They dragged me inside. My feet scraped against the pavement, then across the hardwood floors I used to clean every weekend. Tae-sung was waiting in the living room. The bandage on his head was stark white against his dark hair. His eye was bruised, swollen where I'd hit him with that brick. He looked at me like a hunter admiring a trapped animal. "Welcome home, Min-jun." The fake officers dropped me onto the couch. I struggled against the restraints, but they were too tight, but professional. They'd done this before. "That'll be all," Tae-sung said, handing them an envelope. "Cash, probably." They left without a word, and the front door clicked shut behind them. We were alone. He sat down across from me, relaxed and confident. "You know, I've been waiting for this moment, planning it. Every time you thought you were winning, I was already 3 steps ahead." I glared at him over the gag. If looks could kill, he'd be dead 10 times over. "Your bosses threw you away like garbage today. I saw it from across the street. You walked out of that building looking so broken, so lost." He leaned forward, savoring every word. "No one's coming to save you this time. Not Jiwoo, not Seo-yeon. This time you're mine, forever." He reached over and removed the gag slowly, pulling it down past my chin, savoring the moment. I gasped for air. My jaw ached from being forced open so long. "Now," he said softly, almost gently, "tell me you're sorry. Tell me you should have never left. Beg me to take you back, and maybe I'll be merciful." I looked at him, really looked at him, at the insecurity hiding behind that confident mask, at the desperate need for control that drove everything he did. And I started to laugh. "What's so funny?" His voice sharpened immediately. "You." I kept my tone calm, almost pitying. "You're just their errand boy, Tae-sung, their little attack dog. They snapped their fingers and you came running." His hand twitched. "Watch your mouth. 2 women offered you a contract and you took it like a good little employee. They told you to punish me and you obeyed. How does that feel? Being ordered around by women you probably think you're better than? I'm not being ordered around by anyone." But his voice had an edge now, defensive. "Really? Because from where I'm sitting, you're just a tool they used, a weapon they picked up when it was convenient." I leaned forward despite the restraints binding my hands. "You thought you were winning. You thought this was your victory. You couldn't even destroy me on your own. You needed their permission, their contract, their approval." "Shut up." His face was getting red. "The man who claims he owned me had to get hired by 2 women to punish me. Do you understand how pathetic that is? You're not powerful, Tae-sung. You're obedient. You're not the one in control here. You never were." "I said shut up." He stood abruptly, fists clenched. "Even now, even with me tied up in your house, you're still just following their script, playing your part like a good actor." I watched him start to unravel. "Without their contract, what are you? Nothing. Just a scared little boy who needs to hurt people to feel big." "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. You're inferior to them. To Jiwoo, to Seo-yeon. They're everything you'll never be. Successful, powerful, respected. And the only way you could touch their world was by doing their dirty work for them." He lunged at me, hands reaching for my throat. That's when I struck. I'd been working the restraints loose while I talked, twisting my wrists despite the pain. One hand slipped free just as he grabbed for me. I kicked out hard, catching him in the stomach. He stumbled back, gasping for air. I rolled off the couch, got my feet under me, despite the ankle restraint still binding me. My free hands grabbed his shirt and I slammed my forehead into his nose. He screamed. Blood poured down his face, mixing with the pain from where I'd hit him before. We both went down, crashing into the coffee table. Glass shattered around us. I got one hand on a broken piece, sharp and perfect. "You're done," I said, holding it to his throat. "It's over." Then I heard sirens. Real ones this time. Getting louder, closer. Car doors slammed outside. Heavy footsteps pounded up the walkway. "Police! Open up!" The front door exploded inward. Real officers flooded into the room, weapons drawn, shouting commands I could barely process. And behind them, pushing through the chaos with absolute terror written across their faces, were Seo-yeon and Ji-woo. Their eyes found mine across the wreckage of broken glass and blood. And everything stopped. Everything happened too fast to process. Officers swarmed around Tae-sung, yanking his arms behind his back. The handcuffs clicked into place with a sound that felt final, permanent. One cop was reading him his rights, while another checked the wound on his head I'd reopened. "You're being charged with kidnapping, assault, conspiracy, and impersonating law enforcement officers," the lead detective said. His voice was hard, professional. "You have the right to remain silent." But Tae-sung wasn't silent. He was screaming, thrashing against the officers holding him. "This is illegal! You can't do this! I'll sue every single one of you!" A female officer approached me carefully, like I might bolt. "Are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" I shook my head. Couldn't find words yet. She draped a blanket around my shoulders anyway. It was scratchy and warm and smelled like the inside of a police car. "You're safe now. Can you tell us what happened?" Safe. The word felt foreign. I opened my mouth to answer, but then I saw them. Ji-woo and Seo-yeon pushing through the crowd of officers, their faces pale and drawn. Seo-yeon's perfectly styled hair was messy, like she'd been running her hands through it. Ji-woo's suit jacket was unbuttoned, her tie loose. They looked terrified. "Min-jun." Seo-yeon's voice cracked on my name. She took a step toward me, hand outstretched. I pulled the blanket tighter and stepped back. The hurt that flashed across her face was immediate. Raw. "We tracked your phone," Ji-woo said quickly. Her words came out rushed, desperate. "After you left the building, we never stopped watching. When we saw those fake officers take you, we called the real police immediately, gave them this address. We've been following you since you walked out," Seo-yeon added. "We couldn't let you go. Couldn't let anything happen to you." I stared at them. At these two women who had thrown me away just hours ago, who had made that contract with the man who destroyed me. "I don't need your care," I said. My voice came out flat, cold. "You made that clear this morning." They both flinched like I'd slapped them. The detective was asking me questions. I answered on autopilot, watching Ji-woo and Seo-yeon out of the corner of my eye. They'd stepped back, but they hadn't left. Their eyes stayed locked on me with an intensity I didn't understand. Why were they here? Why did they care now? One of the officers near Tae-sung had his phone out, the sound turned up. A news alert was playing. "Breaking news this afternoon. The construction firm headed by businessman Kang is now under federal investigation for fraud and embezzlement. The investigation was launched today following an anonymous tip that provided extensive financial records to federal prosecutors." My head snapped toward the sound. Tae-sung had gone very still, his face drained of color as he stared at the officer's phone. The reporter continued. "The firm recently signed a $50 million infrastructure contract with a major tech company, but sources say the investigation and subsequent legal fees will likely bankrupt the organization within months." $50 million. The same contract amount Tae-sung had bragged about. The news cut to a press conference. A woman in a sharp suit standing behind a podium with a corporate logo I recognized. Ji-woo and Seo-yeon's company. "In light of the federal investigation," the spokesperson said calmly, Our company cannot and will not associate with entities facing fraud charges. The contract signed this morning is hereby terminated effective immediately. We have a zero-tolerance policy for corruption." The room went silent except for the phone. I turned slowly to look at Ji-woo and Seo-yeon. They were both watching the screen, and on their faces, subtle but unmistakable, were small, satisfied smiles. Understanding hit me like a physical blow. The contract, the meeting at the warehouse, Seo-yeon shaking Tae-sung's hand. It had all been a trap. "You set him up," I breathed. Tae-sung heard me. His head whipped around, eyes wild. What? "You signed a contract that was designed to destroy you," I said, still staring at Ji-woo and Seo-yeon. They knew about the fraud, they reported it, and the second that contract was signed, they had leverage to bankrupt your entire company. "No." Tae-sung's voice rose to a shout. "No, this is illegal. They can't do this. It's entrapment." "It's business," Ji-woo said quietly. Her eyes finally met mine. "We did our due diligence, found some irregularities, reported them to the appropriate authorities, as is our legal obligation." "You lying!" Tae-sung lunged toward them, but the officers holding him yanked him back. Seo-yeon's smile grew just a fraction wider. "We told you we have a zero-tolerance policy for corruption. We meant it." The pieces were clicking together in my head. The meeting at the warehouse wasn't about paying Tae-sung to hurt me. It was about getting him to sign a contract that would destroy him. They'd baited him with $50 million, and his own ego had done the rest. "The anonymous tip," I said slowly. "That was you." "We had a team of forensic accountants working around the clock," Ji-woo confirmed. "Turns out the Kang family business has been cooking their books for years. All we had to do was compile the evidence and deliver it to the right people." "This is entrapment!" Tae-sung screamed again. "I'll sue! I'll destroy both of you!" "With what money?" Seo-yeon's voice was ice. "Your company is finished. Your father's reputation is destroyed, and you're going to prison for kidnapping." She turned her gaze to me. "You'll never hurt her again." The officers started dragging Tae-sung toward the door. He was still screaming, still threatening, but it sounded hollow now, desperate. "You think you've won?" He twisted to look back at me. "They used me. They'll use you too. That's all people like them do." The door slammed behind him. His voice faded into nothing. I stood there wrapped in a police blanket, staring at the two women who had just systematically destroyed my abuser's entire life. "Why?" The word came out barely above a whisper. Ji-woo took a careful step forward. When I didn't move away, she took another. "Because we told you we'd protect you. You pushed me away. You said I couldn't come back." "We lied." Seo-yeon's voice was soft, broken. "We had to make it convincing. Had to make Tae-sung think we'd abandoned you so he'd feel safe enough to make his move. We knew he'd come for you eventually. We just had to make sure we were ready when he did." "And the contract?" My voice was shaking now. "Was bait," Ji-woo said simply. "We dangled $50 million in front of a man who'd do anything for money and power. He couldn't resist. And the second he signed, we had everything we needed to destroy him." I looked between them, at the exhaustion in their faces, the fear that was only now starting to fade, the way their hands were shaking slightly despite their calm voices. "You've been planning this the whole time," I said. "Since the night we found your apartment destroyed," Seo-yeon confirmed. "We knew he wouldn't stop, so we decided to end him instead." The detective cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we need to finish your statement." But I couldn't look away from Ji-woo and Seo-yeon. They'd played everyone, including me, and they'd won. 3 days after Tae-sung's arrest, I finally felt ready to face my mother. Ji-woo and Seo-yeon had been taking care of me at their penthouse. Gentle touches, quiet concern. They never pushed, never demanded explanations or forgiveness. Just stayed close whenever I needed them. But there was one thing I had to do alone, or so I thought. "We're coming with you," Ji-woo said when I mentioned the hospital visit. Her tone left no room for argument. Seo-yeon squeezed my hand. You don't have to face this by yourself anymore. So we went together. My mother's hospital room looked the same as it had that terrible day. White walls, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic. But she looked different. Smaller somehow, more fragile. Her eyes found mine when I walked in, then flicked to Jiwoo and Seo-yeon behind me. Min-jun. Her voice was hoarse, thin. I saw the news, about Tae-sung. I stood at the foot of her bed, hands clenched at my sides, waiting. The fraud charges, the kidnapping, everything. She struggled to sit up higher against her pillows. He came to see me, you know, after you left him. He was so convincing, so concerned about you. I thought... Her voice broke. I thought he was the good one, that you were making a mistake. He manipulated you, I said quietly. That's what he does. I know that now. Tears started sliding down her weathered cheeks. I said terrible things to you, called you shameful, a disgrace. My own daughter and I... She couldn't finish. I moved closer, sat in the chair beside her bed, took her hand. It felt smaller than I remembered, more delicate. I forgive you, I said. And I meant it. I did forgive her, but I couldn't forget, couldn't erase the image of her looking at me with such disgust, such hatred, the way she'd turned her face away like she couldn't stand the sight of me. Forgiveness didn't erase scars. It just meant you chose to keep moving forward despite them. These are the women? My mother's eyes went to Jiwoo and Seo-yeon, who'd stayed respectfully near the door. Yes. They make you happy? I looked back at them, at Jiwoo's protective stance, at Seo-yeon's gentle smile. Yes, they do. My mother nodded slowly. Then I'm glad. I'm sorry I couldn't see it before. We stayed a little longer, made small talk about her treatment, her doctors, but something had shifted between us. Something fundamental. The bond was still there, stretched thin but not broken. But it would never be the same. When we left, Jiwoo's hand found the small of my back. Seo-yeon walked close on my other side, grounding me, reminding me I wasn't alone anymore. Outside in the parking lot, Seo-yeon stopped walking. Let's go on a date, a real one this time. Jiwoo nodded. No secrets, no plans, just us. I looked between them. I'd like that. The restaurant was perfect, intimate but not stuffy. Candlelight that made everything soft and warm. We talked about everything and nothing, laughed about small things. Seo-yeon's hand found mine across the table. Jiwoo's knee pressed against mine underneath it. The tension built slowly, naturally. Every touch lingered a little longer. Every look held a little more heat. By the time we got back to the penthouse, my skin felt electric. Jiwoo poured wine. We stood in the living room with the city lights spreading out below us through the massive windows. Are you sure about this? Jiwoo asked softly. About us? I set down my glass, stepped closer to her, then to Seo-yeon. I've never been more sure of anything. Jiwoo's hand cupped my face. Her thumb traced my cheekbone. Then let us show you what it means to be loved. The kiss was slow, deep. Everything the desperate kiss at the gala wasn't. This was a promise, a beginning. Seo-yeon's lips found my neck, my shoulder. Her hands slid around my waist from behind. Bedroom, Jiwoo murmured against my mouth. They guided me there, hands never leaving my body. Jiwoo sat on the edge of the bed, pulling me between her knees. Her fingers found the buttons of my blouse, undoing them one by one with deliberate slowness. Beautiful, she breathed. You're so beautiful. Seo-yeon pressed against my back, helping slide the blouse off my shoulders. Her lips traced patterns down my spine. I shivered, not from cold, from want. Jiwoo stood, turned me around so Seo-yeon could kiss me properly while she worked on the zipper of my skirt. It fell away. Then their hands were everywhere, gentle but insistent, worshipping every inch of skin they revealed. Your turn, I managed, voice already breathless. They smiled, helped me undress them. Jiwoo's suit, Seo-yeon's dress, until we were all bare and beautiful in the dim bedroom light. We tumbled onto the bed together, a tangle of limbs and mouths and hands. Jiwoo's touch was commanding, confident. She knew exactly how to make me gasp, where to kiss, where to stroke. Seo-yeon was softer, tender, whispering how perfect I was, how much they'd wanted this, how they'd never let me go. I surrendered completely. Let them take me apart and put me back together. Let myself fall into the pleasure without fear, without doubt. When I finally shattered, it was with both their names on my lips. They held me through the aftershocks, kissed me back together. Then we moved again, slower this time. I touched them the way they'd touched me, learned what made Jiwoo lose control, what made Seo-yeon beg. We made love until the city lights blurred and the world narrowed to just the three of us. Skin against skin, hearts beating in sync. After, we lay tangled together under silk sheets. I was nestled between them, Jiwoo's arm around my waist, Seo-yeon's fingers tracing lazy patterns on my shoulder. "I love you," Seo-yeon whispered into the darkness. "Both of you." "I love you too," Jiwoo said, her voice rough with emotion. I turned my head to kiss Seo-yeon. Then Jiwoo. "I love you," I said. "So much it scares me." "Don't be scared." Jiwoo pulled me closer. "We've got you. Always." I closed my eyes, safe between them. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I felt completely whole. This was home, not a place, not a building, them, us. This love that had been born from spite and survival and had somehow transformed into something real, something lasting. I'd been through hell, lost almost everything, been broken and rebuilt more times than I could count. But lying here between these two incredible women who had fought for me, protected me, loved me even when I couldn't love myself. I knew it had all been worth it. Numb every tear, every scar, every moment of pain, because they led me here, to this perfect, imperfect love. And I was finally, truly free. The end. If this story had you feeling everything, hit that like button. Subscribe for more emotional GL romance stories that will wreck you in the best way. Drop a comment. Did Jiwoo and Seo-yeon's plan shock you? Were you rooting for them the whole time? See you in the next story.